Good evening and welcome everyone to this CARE webinar. Today we have the privilege of inviting Mdm Surati from the Singapore Teachers Academy of the Arts to speak to us about her exploration, insights and perspectives about the inclusive music classroom. Mdm Suriati studied music in elementary schools in Hiroshima, Japan, and holds a Master of Education with a music specialization from the National Institute of Education. Having served the teaching fraternity for 33 years, she believes that every child is creative and deserves a holistic education. Prior to joining the Singapore Teachers Academy for the Arts, Ministry of Education, she served as a curriculum planning officer in MOE HQ, where she was involved in developing curriculum and pedagogy for music education in schools. She was also involved in various assessment projects. Mdm Suriati is currently a master teacher at STAR. She looks into the professional development of arts teachers. She is spearheading the Engaging with Songs program, a professional development program targeted to impact teachers' confidence in leading singing in music teaching, as well as the Beginning Teachers program, which focuses on building essential music classroom routines and engaging music pedagogies for effective classroom teaching. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you.
I hope that was a good enough introduction, and maybe there were other things that I might have missed out, which you could let us know. Okay, so we'll plunge straight into our little dialogue about inclusive music education. So I guess I will begin by asking, how did you begin this little adventure into inclusivity?
Adventure indeed.
Yes.
A couple of years back, the ministers made an announcement that all teachers should be equipped with some skills and for effective teaching in the classroom. And one of the major area that we were supposed to look into would be SEN, or rather inclusive classroom for education. Yeah. So as you have introduced myself just now, I look into the professional development for teachers in primary school, in music rather. And it is a nice feat, to be able to do things with the teachers and help them teach better in class. So, and we have quite a number of diverse students in our classroom. So providing them with tools that could help them with classroom management or even become a better teacher was one of the areas that we would really like to attain for our teachers. And thus, here I am.
Okay. So what were some of these, I suppose, activities or ideas, and where have you gathered them from in the last few, because I know you've gone adventuring into different spaces. So just to give a context, I suppose, for the audience of how this came about.
When we were first told that we were supposed to do certain things, right? I mean, as always, we would like to be a little bit more prepared. So books, definitely one of those, but there are so many books out there. So we engage in conversations with pedagogues who have embarked in this area way earlier before us. So we had contacts from overseas experts in this area, and we engaged them in conversations, many hours of conversations. We spoke to them and we invited them to speak to our teachers even. And alongside with them, we work in smaller groups. We have NLCs, meaning we had networked learning committees, or committees where we group a group of teachers to work closer or more closely with these pedagogues. So we had people from places like somebody from New York Steinhardt. We worked with somebody from Monash University, and along also with many others. And then we engaged them over, we had more conversations. For myself, I also went out on my way to find out a little bit more from more developed, not developed countries, sorry, with friends out there who have done this and had a lot of things to share with me. So yeah, so I got those, and I have been very privileged actually to work with teachers who want to do more for their students. So that's that networked learning communities really allow me to venture into the classroom to see whatever we are doing with the teachers actually work. So those are testimony of good practices. And thus we gathered all this information, we put them together, and then we share it with the other teachers. I suppose that's how it works.
Right, right. So these are all kind of developed into resources.
Yes.
And then now it's kind of shared
Yes,
with the
definitely
larger
so.
fraternity. Yeah, wonderful. These communities of practice in a way,
yeah.
right? Yeah. So let's plunge straight into this notion of inclusivity. How is inclusive music classroom defined within the context of Singapore? And more specifically, how does it look like?
Very interesting, because different countries, I understand, define inclusivity in many different ways. Let's just go into Singapore's system. Ministry of Education actually has a policy to support special needs or special educational needs, SEN in short. One of the goals is to actually build an inclusive education and opportunities for all. We hope to see in schools an inclusive culture where for the child can learn, and children with needs will receive timely and appropriate support to achieve their full potential. And for teachers, each teacher to be skillful so that they can support and manage diverse learners, including students with mild SEN. And for the school, in terms of systems, to have its own systemic whole school approach to support diverse learners. Yeah. So and when we talk of dive further into this, it is really to give the children a fair chance to go to school, to learn, to develop their skills they need to thrive, and for all the children to be in the same classroom, to be in the same school, to have real learning opportunities for groups who have traditionally previously been excluded. Yeah, and we should value unique contributions from students from all backgrounds, bringing it into the classroom and to allow diverse groups to grow side by side, and it is for benefit of all. Yeah, so that's what inclusivity is for us.
Okay, that's great to know. I think I want to plunge, I guess, now a little deeper into how does that really look like within the music space, right? In the music classroom, I mean, you talk about inclusivity, right? So how would it look differently from what it was before, I suppose?
Oh, okay. Like right now, music lessons have been planned in such a way that it would meet the needs of all students, of all children, regardless which level they are. The teachers will look into different modes of delivery for the students, and they will also receive answers in many different pathways. Let's take it, for example, if a child is dyslexic, for example, the child is already quite disadvantaged in the fact that they could not read, this child could not read so clearly, right? And then here we are giving them notation, which is completely different things altogether. So, and music is such is a subject that is so interactive, and we do a lot of ensemble playing with friends and all that. And if we do not provide an opportunity for this child to take part, then the child will always be isolated. So a teacher could actually help the child in terms of the reading part, come up with some resources that could help this child focus on particular part and just practice on that. And then when the child could do more, you know, the teacher could slowly release responsibility for the child to have more opportunity to, you know, to read the rest of the music. Let's take this paper, for example, okay? It's a simple paper. So if you have a score and you want to make sure that the child is not disturbed by the other parts of the score and just focus on that, it's easy. You just put this over the actual score, cut out a window for the child to focus on and place it over the notation. And then the child can just focus on that. And when the child is okay to move on, slide it down so that the window opens up to another set of notation. So that's one way that the teacher could do to help.
And of course, there are many neurodivergence possibilities, right, in a classroom. So I guess if we talk a little bit more about professional development of teachers within that space, what do you feel are some of the things that teachers need to know in terms of prior knowledge? Because my understanding is in previous years, our school teachers, they're not trained, or they don't really have that much information,
True.
I guess, about neurodivergence. And so how is that part of the input, I suppose?
I think right now we are very lucky. We are quite blessed with books, digital devices, people whom we can talk to, and then we have discussions and all that. Our teachers have been supported quite well in this area. They could come for courses, they could have conversations with us. There is small clusters of teachers who can lead at their own cluster level. But to start them off, perhaps, what is this has nothing to do whether you're teaching music or teaching mathematics or whatever subject. It is just a system or a process that I think it would be good for them to put into practice, is to come up with a form of documentation that records the child's behavior, so to speak. Not just background information of his name, his date of birth, his age, whatever, but also to see his trigger points. Because once we are cognizant or we are aware of his trigger points, I wouldn't want to, poke and riddle the child further. We will avoid that particular trigger. So if the child comes into school first time and then you don't know, and you are only teaching for music, for example, you are only teaching 1 hour per week, so to speak, right? Get to know his parents, get to know the child well, build good relationship with the child, get to talk to the form teacher, see whether there are similar things that you can avoid, or get to know the child, his interests, and then build upon that and work based on his strength, and get to know the parents. If the child is having some help outside, get to know, ask to read the files, the profile. So that would really help the teacher as well. It is also part of classroom management, I guess. So, you can do all that. Of course, having tools will definitely help. Definitely. But remember, there's no one size fit all. What you try at 8 o'clock in the morning may not work at 9:30 in the morning, or not even at 8:30 in the morning. Things just evolve, and you don't know what happened. It may not be a school thing when the child breaks down or has a meltdown. It could be something from home, and the child just brings it up to school, and things just got layered. And unfortunately, the child just breaks in your class. So sometimes it's not about you. So don't take it personally, So these are things that the teachers could take into consideration and be aware of, so that teaching can be a little easier.
And it seems actually this would be a thing that you would do to with any classroom, right?
Exactly.
Really knowing the students,
Exactly.
Getting to understand a little bit more from the various stakeholders that are involved, right? Whether it's the other teachers, the form teachers, the parents, and so on and so forth. So that kind of points to, as you mentioned earlier, this whole idea of, I guess, a whole school approach, right? Now also some sort of a mindset shift, I suppose. Yeah.
A whole school approach is important, because it is not just a teacher or a group of teachers, but it is really the whole school. So if it is about wanting to help this child, the language has to be consistent. The language used, the images used, it should be consistent, because eventually we want the child to graduate from the school or grow older with that confidence that he or she can be independent after school, school days. So what we can do is that the school can have people coming in to look into resources. Like if a child can't read, and this child has to go to, this child can't read, and this child gets confused. And this child has to go to the dentist, and the child missed the whole class, and he doesn't know where to go to. And he has to go to the music room. And he can't read. He doesn't know that this is a music room. So if we have a nice image that can be used and introduced to everybody in the school, it would really help the child. I mean, well, that kind of image can also help the typical student, you see. So that is one thing. And if we are doing it in school, in class, parents should know as well, so they could practice it. It's all about routine. A lot about routine, speaking the same language, practicing the same thing, so that the child doesn't get confused. And when the child is not confused, teaching can be done better, and the child will be, I guess the child can be more confident about going to school and not wanting to go to school. Yeah.
Yeah, so it seems setting routines and having, as you say, visual cues could be one of these useful strategies that could help a whole range of students, right?
But I really believe that spend time with the kid. Spend time with the child. When you know the child, you know his interests, you know his dislikes, it is easier to get things going and to get him to buy in and wanting to learn more with you. And friends, it takes a teacher to really stand out there and be the figure of influence, and to help this child integrate better with the rest of the classmates.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. I guess you also pointed out this idea of building relationship earlier, and so all that kind of works together in tandem. It also reminds me, as you talk about this idea of UDL and differentiated learning, and that kind of frame seems to be very much within what we are kind of in dialogue at the moment, right? So maybe you can talk a little bit more about how, say, UDL or differentiated learning is kind of encapsulated.
UDL is a very good start point because, well, we all know that it started off with a team of people dealing with architecture. So it talks about facilities, it talks about aesthetics, like overhead bridges. Usually we have steps, but what happened to the person on a wheelchair? So an architect said, oh, why don't we have a ramp? And then you have the ramp, and then things will move on quite smoothly. And edges, sharp edges, you have it curved, you avoid accidents. So based on that, we use UDL because it is multiple pathways to learning, to delivery, and to acceptance of information. So that is one way. So it is interesting to read through what else we can use. Sometimes you can even use, I know some people said, why use too much digital stuff? But digital computers, softwares, they can actually help with the learning for the students. Why? Because they can go back and forth, they can revisit, It's not like when a teacher speaks, you can't press the rewind button, But through digital devices, they can revisit whatever they've learned. So that would be one of the things for UDL. When we talk about differentiated instruction, which is another one of the tenets that we are supposed to help our teachers with in schools. Differentiated instructions is based on you knowing your student, you having a baseline for the students, and then encouraging them or pushing them a little bit up so that they would progress. Progress is still a need here. We are talking about them learning something and doing well in certain things. So with differentiated instructions and the teacher knowing the students very well, the teachers can then pack it to a certain level for the children to move forward or move upwards. So with that, they have that in mind. Students will feel more confident that they can do it. They will be more excited about stuff. They are more excited about learning. They might want to try because it's not that challenging. It's not that difficult. A little bit. But it is also okay if the child can't because the baseline is already quite there. So it is not lowering standards. The modification will help with lowering barriers. So just we have to remember that when we have students with special needs, so to speak, we are not lowering standards for them. We are just lowering the barrier. And there's a lot of modifications that can be done. So it is up to the teacher to work that into the lessons itself.
Yeah, so that's a whole treasure trove of things that you've kind of already put out, you know, as we mentioned earlier, from routines to visual cues to repetition to tech to modifications, adjustments, and possibilities. So maybe we go a little bit more specific into looking at the music classroom itself. Maybe you can give us a couple of strategies or ideas that has been generally more helpful within the diverse space.
Sure. This is for, I have to acknowledge all the teachers who have been working very hard in this particular project that we did a couple of years back. They try out things, and let's take one example, a child who is a non-verbal child, okay? And this, a teacher wants to teach maybe notation. You are supposed to say things out, like how many clutches, how many. You have to display your understanding of rhythmic notation. So if this child cannot say it, but the child can play it on an instrument, or the child can clap it, I think the child got it. So that child should not be penalized. So you should be able to be open enough to accept answers in different form. If the child can't play for you, the child could probably draw it out for you. Like, for example, singing a phrase or identifying phrase in a song. If the child doesn't sing, because non-verbal, right? But the child can actually identify where the phrase marks are. So the child actually understands what it is. So I think it should be accepted. Definitely. Yeah. And if you are trying to teach the child to read choral scores or a score, and there are symbols or words that say forte, which we know is loud, and the child just cannot associate with those words. But the child loves animals, and the child will match that dynamics to the size of that animal. So the teacher could actually use, okay, let the child decide what is loud. Maybe an elephant trumpeting is loud. So that could be the symbol for loud. And then something soft, maybe, I don't know, what is soft? A quieter sounding animal. Then you can use that to replace words. So the child can actually play it. Well, these children are pretty talented actually in terms of music. They can reproduce quite good stuff. So why minimalize their learning by just words when they can use images? They can use something that they like to replace all these choices.
Definitely. And talk about choices and agency. What do you think about that in terms of neurodivergency?
Okay, depends. Okay, sometimes this work with one group and doesn't work with another group. So I was just recalling this experience that I had working with a child. I was so eager to display whatever I have in this particular box, a musical box. And I wanted the child to explore with it. But this particular child was just so overstimulated by the number of things that I had for him, we didn't get anywhere. So learning was, if I want the child to play a certain instrument, I'll give him two choices. Either the claves or a castanet, maybe. Okay, so that would make the lesson go a little faster. But because I had so many choices, the child was just picking up everything and anything, and in the end we didn't get going. We could not get to the outcome that I wanted. So with neurodivergent students, choice is a must. We should give them a choice, but not too many, because they get super overstimulated. So that is one thing that I have learned not to do ever again.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's different for each child, and then we kind of know what's possible, and then you push on to the
Yes,
to the next level.
definitely.
In a way, right? So that's to do with you and me as well, I suppose. So you've talked a lot about, I suppose, musical outcomes, right, in the music classroom, in the examples that you've illustrated. What other outcomes are we looking at in terms of an inclusive music classroom?
What other outcomes? Social. Yeah. Social is very important. It's not just about learning all the time. So we are talking about the child being able to work in a group. The group setting is very prevalent in music lessons because we always have group activities. So when we have group activities, the child will learn how to regulate. Slowly, not overnight, definitely not overnight. And the task given to him should be appropriate to what he is able to do or his or her strength. So dynamics is one very good example because sometimes they just don't know how to control their volume. So working in groups, the friends could actually help. And as the teacher, you can moderate if the friends are getting a little too loud or not so kind. That's where the teacher comes in. The teacher has always got to be there to moderate whatever is happening in the class. She or he should always be on the alert of anything. I mean, it's not just for students with special needs or, it's an inclusive thing. It's for anybody and everybody. So the teacher should be the one keeping an eye on such things. But like you mentioned, this social thing that the students need to develop has to be taught. It is not by chance. So the teacher has to design lessons or portions of lessons where everybody gets to play together, everybody gets to learn together, and they learn from each other. So that is very powerful. Yeah, they learn to negotiate. They learn to accept no for an answer. They learn to say okay. They learn not to take too hard. When they were told no. So, of course, it has to be again guided by the teacher.
Yeah. So talking about negotiation,
Yes.
maybe we can dig a little deeper into what that means.
Negotiation. Oh yes. I know for sure if a child has some help outside of school, they are given checklists and they have to learn to regulate themselves. So when we bring that into the classroom, the teachers could actually use the same mode of interaction with the student. We know students with mild or extreme ADHD, they tend to walk about. That's how they learn. It's not that they're not learning anything. They are learning. They are actually listening to you, but they just have to move about a little bit more. So, but to reduce the distraction for the friends around him who do not move so much. So the teacher could have a negotiation, a contract, so to speak. Yeah, I use the word a lot, right? So to speak, a contract whereby the teacher will tell the child, okay, you need to walk now 2 rounds and then come back and sit down. Then 10 minutes later, you can do that again. So when the child agrees and the child keeps to that contract, I think that works both ways, for the teacher and for the child, and also for the rest of the class. So they are not too overtly distracted by the movement. But when that happens, it's a win-win situation, I guess. So that is one part of negotiation. So and when you tell the student that he or she can move, please keep to your word, because that's where trust is built. You have to keep to your word. As much as you want the child to also honor that contract, you have to also honor your part of the deal.
That seems also is in line with this notion of creating a safe space.
Yeah.
I suppose,
Yes,
right?
of course,
and
of course.
that's true for any
I mean, we are a school, we are a safe place for children. So while we are helping them with the skills, for social skills or whatever skills that we want them to have, we have to provide them the space to grow into it and allow them to make some mistakes so that they can grow positively.
Yeah, that's certainly important. Can I now plunge a little bit into the notions of challenges, I suppose, for the teachers in dealing with the inclusive classroom, because, like it or not, it's a lot of things to
Yes.
consider. It's many.
Sure.
So
Time factor. You have things to teach. And then the number of students in the classroom. I mean, some people say, no, it doesn't really matter, but sometimes it does. When one child has a meltdown, 29 of them will be like waiting, so the teacher needs to have that kind of support. So that is also one thing that we have to consider. When that sort of things happen, the teachers have, we are responsible adults with a very important job to do, teaching children, right? So there's certain things that we have to teach. So what can we do as a teacher now to help the child and to help ourselves to be that good teacher, that effective teacher? I would suggest that when we plan lessons, plan it in a module that stretches over a couple of weeks. So that if 1 week, I hope it doesn't happen, but if one of that days the child has that meltdown and the child just could not go on with lesson, the child doesn't miss so much, because the child would have picked up the skills or the concepts that the teachers want to teach in the other lessons. So plan it in such a way that the teacher could revisit, or the child could revisit the learning in other lessons as well. So it's not like if I am only teaching, say, I don't know, a particular concept like musical concept, ostinato, and then you don't do it anymore. It's only just that day. That's unfair.
Yeah.
I feel that that's not so fair for the child or for anybody for that matter. So it's good to revisit that particular concept, that particular thing, singing or playing instrument in an ostinato. So the child could then pick it up. Maybe the child need a little bit more time, but it is not completely wasted that the child could not pick it up during that days that he's not there or that he had a meltdown. So planning is very important, it's very crucial. Some teachers said they are very wary of having to plan lessons that way because it seems like it's a lot of work to do. But in actual fact, you are able to manage it your way. Like today, the class seems to be great. I can accelerate. And today, maybe this portion, they need a little bit more help. And then you can slow down and revisit it the week after. So it allows the teacher to have a lot of room to maneuver the lessons.
Yeah, so in a way, a more macro
Yes.
look at stuff, right? I
Definitely.
mean, as you say, it's a module, and then within that, different concepts comes again and again.
And what is great about that is that you can, when you revisit, you can do reflection.
Yeah.
And reflection is very important for them to see how much they know or how much they need to know, or, let's move on. I'm bored with this already. Let's have something more challenging. So the teachers could actually moderate and come out with something more appropriate for the students, that particular child or the whole class itself.
Definitely. So if we talk about the different neurodivergence possibilities, and you've made mention of ADHD, children with autism, and perhaps more in these two terms. Are there other kind of more
Definitely.
neurodivergence
Of course.
possibilities, and what would be some of these approaches?
They're actually quite plentiful out there. The more common ones we know of would be students with the autism spectrum, ADHD. We have ODD, which is oppositional. I'm not really familiar with the full term, but it's like when you say don't do it, and he will do it. So again, that comes with negotiation. Yeah, so maybe you can help the child by saying, don't do it yet, let's do this first, and after we have done this, you can do that. So again, the teacher needs to be able to coax the child, to manage the child in that manner. Like if the child says, I want to go to the toilet now, that's to play water. And if you say no, the child will just run out, and then what are you going to do? The rest of the class will be staring at you. Yeah. So again, negotiate. You can go to the washroom, but give me another 5 minutes. Finish this up first, and then you go. It might work. It might work. Like I said, disclaimer, yeah. One day it could work, and the next day it just doesn't work. Today it worked with this child, the next day it doesn't work with the same child. So it really is. It depends. It depends how and when and situation. So be flexible about this. And again, I'm going to say it, don't take it too hard. It's not about you. The focus should be on the child. Yeah, so you were saying that. And then we have nonverbal. That is quite common. Dyslexia, definitely. We have color blindness. So color blindness, if you have color blindness and you have dyslexia in the same class, that could pose to be a bit of a challenge also, because if you want to teach a child note reading for dyslexic student, it is quite easy to have color matches. So if you play the resonator bar, it comes with different colors, yeah? So your notation could match the bars. But a child with color blindness will only see neutral colors. So then you need to find out who these people are. And then you might want to give that child another alternative. So that could be it as well. Child with anger management. What happens when the child gets angry? That we need to manage as well, because it may not be you again. It could be something the child gets agitated because of lesson before that, or something from home, or at that point of time the friend just took his pencil, his favorite pencil. So how do we manage that? We need to isolate the child, put the child in a quieter corner, let the child calm down. But if it gets a bit violent, of course, call for help. Always have your phone with you. Call for help. Speed dial. Office. Somebody will come and help. Yeah. If you know that the child is sensitive to certain kind of sounds, minimize it. I mean, we are in a music lesson. In a music classroom, you play with all sorts of timbre. You have the metallic sounds, you have the wooden sound, you have the wind sound, you have all sorts. But if the child gets too overstimulated by the ringing of the bells, so what do? Do you say that the child cannot play forever? No. Reduce it. Ask the child, are you comfortable with this now? Are you comfortable with this sound? If you see that the child automatically covers his ears, then back off. Give him something lighter, something softer. Buy a bell that is not so sharp. That could help. But always seek the child's not permission, but just ask the child if he is okay with that sound that particular time. And if he can, voila, there you go. I mean, music goes on. But if the child finds that it's too noisy, get him a headphone, a sound blocker. That would really help. Especially in primary school, they go for excursion. And just like adults, we get excited when we get onto the bus, we talk louder than usual. A child with a certain condition may find that irritable. So what you can do is that have that sound blocker, get him to put it on. And it will automatically regulate the child. And usually it does. From my experience, it does. It would help you with your classroom management. Yeah.
Wow. So many different possibilities and
Many.
Yeah. It's wonderful. Where do you think we are at this point?
I must say that we have come a long way also. We are not starting from zero. We have moved. Of course, as any project that we are involved in or anything that we do, there's always room for improvement. But we have started quite well into this. We have people who are able to help us. We are able to identify. We have tools. We have, like you mentioned way earlier just now, before the session, a bag of tricks, right? I would like to use it as a bag of tools, where they can use anything to help these children. It may mean these tools may mean to be used for something else, but if it helps with another person, why not use them? It can always be applied for anybody, any one of us. So we could go slightly faster if everybody has that awareness and practice it. I mean, it is not easy. It is not easy because we are dealing with a human's life. We are dealing with children. They are going to grow up. They're going to be our future as well. They deserve that care. They deserve that patience. They deserve that inclusion. Yeah.
Certainly.
Yes.
And you were mentioning about areas of improvement. What might these be at this point?
Okay, what might this be? Resources, perhaps.
Okay.
Environment. That's not the word. Logistics. Now I know there are plenty. I mean, we are getting there, but it would be good, when a child gets into that self-harm state, it would be good if there is a room which is well padded with an adult in there to calm the child down so that he doesn't hurt himself even more. That would be really, really useful. And to have somebody trained in this area, one person I think is not enough. Looking at the number of students that we have, budgeting, have resources. Like I said, when you have images, those need time to do. You need time to do. You need money to do all those. You need people to help you with manpower. So those things could help. I mean, we can easily say, oh, a vendor could do that, and then we can just buy. But do you want to really do that? Yeah.
Yeah, certainly lots to think about moving forward, right, in this whole area.
Yeah.
And so what are some of the plans forward now with this project?
It would be great if we can have more teachers involved in such small network communities where they can try new things, and share with all of us, because we are in education, right? I mean, sharing is the best thing to do, because once you try things out and you know that you have something good going, help us learn. We can get there faster. We can get there faster together. So there's no need to be shy, saying that, no, like, it's just a little bit small thing. It's not. Anything would help. Yeah, somebody shared with me that to help a child to write, especially for a slow learner, use a pencil with the grip. It's just a grip. I think it's a few cents if you were to buy it online. It's just a grip, but it does go a long way. So if more people know about this, more people are willing to try it out, then the child can learn faster too. We are actually helping the child learn.
Yeah, definitely, with all these adaptive tools. And
correct.
So forth. So is there currently a repository of these resources where I guess the fraternity can access?
For our teachers out there in schools, we do have actually Academy for Singapore Teachers have a team that puts out very nice tips, very good tips, not nice, very good tips on how to help teachers and how to help students, how to identify and strategies and such. For music, specifically music, at STAR, we have a website where teachers can plonk in their resources. They share the resources at large, where if you have the access to it, please go in and take a look at it. There are ready-made materials for you to use. And there are teachers' narratives that you can actually listen to, and you can borrow and try out those strategies. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, I hope the public can access some of these materials and resources.
Slowly,
as well.
we'll get there. We'll get there somehow.
Well, that's quite a lot of things that we've covered today. I don't know if you have any further thoughts or last guidance or recommendations.
Recommendations. Just one. Get to know your students. Know them well. Know them well. Befriend them. Don't be afraid of them. They are still kids. They're still children. They are children who need our help. So don't be afraid to try things out. Don't be afraid to share. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That is important. Ask for help if you need it. Yeah. And it has to be a whole school approach. Not one person, not a group of teachers, but the whole school.
Yeah, you're right. It takes a village, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it takes village, it takes relationship.
Definitely.
It takes many, many routines.
Yes.
It takes many, many modifications, but
Right.
all for the good of everybody, actually, in the end. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time.
You're most welcome. I hope that helped.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, everyone.